and welcome back to another episode of The Book Stop. I'm your host Jen, and I'm very excited to talk about today's episode. But before we begin, there will be spoilers as we talk about major events that unfold within the story. In addition, each episode will have a list of trigger warnings in the description. Be sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast, and show your support on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content.
One, two, three.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen. Happy birthday to you.
And we're back with another episode
I
of
need an air horn noise.
And today we are going to talk about my favorite book. We're going to talk about All for the Game, The Raven King by Nora Sakavic. This book was published in July 2013.
Wow.
Almost 10 years
Yikes.
since the second one came out. That's crazy.
Still holds up.
Yeah, my favorite is the phones. Neil still has a little flip
Yeah.
phone, but
And they still made fun of him for having a flip phone.
yeah,
So
it's realistic
it's
to
pretty
today.
normal.
Alright, so before we get started, we're going to play a little game. You're going to summarize this book in 30 seconds. Try your best.
The Palmetto State Foxes are a XC team full of delinquents and people trying to move on or hide from their past. Follows the story of Neil and kind of him just joining his fellow foxes and them playing a good old game, you know? Some weird stuff too.
I mean, yeah,
That's
a lot of stuff
description.
happens.
Just a bunch of weird, emotionally damaged people playing a sport together. Should be the tagline for the book.
Yeah. We did the Foxhole Court last year, so listen to that before you listen to this. And yeah, I'm going to summarize it really quick for anybody who hasn't heard of this book before. The foxes are a fractured mess, but their latest disaster might be a miracle they've always needed to come together as a team. The one person standing in their way is Andrew, and the only one who could break through his personal barriers is Neil. Except Andrew doesn't give up anything for free, and Neil is terrible at trusting anyone but himself. The two don't have much time to come to terms with their situation before outside forces start tearing them apart. Rico is intent on destroying Neil's fragile new life, and the foxes have just become collateral damage. Neil's days are numbered, but he's learning the hard way to go down fighting for what he believes in. And Neil believes in Andrew, even if Andrew won't believe in himself. I love this series so much, and this one isn't necessarily my favorite book out of the series because this is very much a bridge book, answering questions from the first one and then setting up the third book, the final book. But yeah, I really like this series a
It's
lot.
got its own unique stuff. Not filler, because it's like important stuff, but it's just like, hey, we talked about some of this in the first one, let's elaborate, and now the third one is going to be the best one. That's just kind of how the book feels, and how it's like pushing you through. But like, it wasn't like it got boring at times or anything like that. Like, they still put plenty of new information and new stuff happening in it.
First one was setting up the whole scenarios and plot and stuff. This one was setting up a lot of character background. Third one's like a good mix of both of them and answering off those final questions before we get to the very end.
Yeah, I think
So.
the first one talked a little bit more about the sport itself, and like in this one they play it, but it doesn't like go into the details of this is what this does, and it talks more about this is the trauma this character faced, and you're like, oh cool, glad to know.
Yeah. Alright, so we're going to start out here with our favorite quotes. I had a hard time deciding because there are a lot of really good quotes in here. Nora did such a good job writing this book, and I mentioned in the first podcast that we did of the Foxhole Court that Nora never planned on publishing this book. It was kind of like a secret project, and then her friends didn't even know that she was publishing this book when she did decide to do it because she was like afraid of not necessarily the backlash, but the fame of it all, being like a name on a book. She was always afraid of that. So again, to this day, I thank Nora for publishing this book because I love it so much and I love the series. But yeah, there's a lot of just really good lines in here. But there was one that every time I read it, it just makes me laugh and it gives me a lot of respect for Neil, who is our main character. So he's talking to Nikki. And Nikki is a openly gay man in the series. And Nikki has, like, approached Neil a lot about his sexuality, and he's, like, just trying to figure him out. There was a quote that he says where Neil says, "Why don't you like girls?" Nikki looked startled by the interruption, but he rallied quickly and made a face. "They're too soft." Neil thought about Renee's bruised knuckles, Dan's fierce spirit, and Allison holding her ground on the court for a week after Seth's death. He thought about his mother standing unflinching in the face of his father's violent anger and her ruthlessness leaving bodies in their wake. He felt compelled to say, "Some of the strongest people I've known are women." And I love that line so much. It's just, he has so much respect for women. I know a lot of it comes from the core of his memories of his father and how much he doesn't like men. Even when he met Coach for the first time, he was scared of him. I think he just, growing up with just his mother, it helped him kind of respect them a little bit more. But we just love a man, that respects women.
We love it.
We have the bar so low here, so just respect women and you got those points.
I think it's even funnier. I really like that scene because, like, that's not even what Nikki meant. He was like, "Oh no, they just, like, have too much curves." He wasn't even talking about, like, their will or, like, any of that stuff. He was just talking about their actual bodies are too soft.
Yeah.
And then Neil's like, "Oh." He goes into this whole, like, "Well, I think," and he's like, "Oh, no. They're just squishy."
Yeah, they're just too squishy. He talks about how his boyfriend, Eric's so strong and sturdy, I feel like he could just hold me up for days.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about men, and I'm like, respect. But yeah, I just love that scene, and I love that quote. What quote did you bring?
Okay, so I had a couple written down. Like you said, it is hard. There was quite a few good ones. One of the ones that I liked a lot was, "I'm a bad person trying very hard to be a good person." And so that was Renee that said that. And she was kind of going into her past a little bit and how, like, kind of talks to Neil about how she could probably relate to him more than he thinks. And how she, relates to Andrew really well. Because from Neil's point of view, he just sees her as, like, this good Christian girl, pretty much, who's, like, on their team. And he's just been kind of, like, afraid of her because he doesn't, like, it's not his thing. He doesn't trust people like that. And being able to acknowledge that, like, she's a bad person, but she's just, like, trying so hard. They don't really talk a ton about what she did or what happened in her past, but she's self-proclaiming that she's a bad person. I think it's just a lot of people can relate to just trying very hard to be a good person, whether you think you're a bad person or someone else does, whether you've done something or not, just trying really hard to be a good person. And I think that was, like, a good glimpse into, like, her past and kind of, like, a good moment for her and Neil to be like, okay, maybe she's not who I assumed she was, because this book is a lot about assumptions and then, like, them breaking it, what they expect people to be like.
Like Renee, we're going to talk a lot about her, but, she has a reason to be on the Foxes. No one comes to this team as a solid person, I guess you could say. They all have very traumatic passes. And yeah, Renee, you're gonna find out a lot about her in the next book, and you're gonna be shocked at how similar she is to Andrew. Mm-hmm. That's why her and Andrew get along so well, because they can relate to each other, and they have a lot of things that happen in their past that kind of are relatable. Like, they're about the same.
Then it shows, like, the different ways people can react to their pasts, and how, like, she's choosing to be good and grow from it, and Andrew's a disaster, but I mean, he's on
medically
court-ordered medication that, really, messes with him. So I'm excited to see him off of that medication and see how he is and how he deals with stuff.
It's not what you're gonna expect. That's Andrew in his prime, honestly.
He just gets boring. He starts going to church too.
Yeah,
he joins the church choir and is like,
oh my god. Could you imagine?
I could actually imagine it, like, quite clearly. Just, he'd have to stand in the front because he's so little.
Little guy.
Oh, I did also like the one of, "You don't need me to tell you life's not fair, you're here because you know it isn't." I feel like that is honestly, like, the team's tagline of, they all have had just terrible pasts and things that they've had to overcome, and they all have the same understanding of, like, their life isn't fair, but they're trying to do something about it as much as they can.
Yeah, that kind of brings me to the next section is like what we like about the book. That's what I like about it, is that they don't treat each other with pity. There are times where, like, especially like Matt with Neil, you can tell that he feels sorry for him. But with those like traumatic events, they don't feel bad because they've also experienced it, and when they went through it, they didn't want pity. I really like that they don't hold each other up to different standards of, well, you know, you're a girl, so you deserve more pity than me, or anything like that. They're all in the same playing field, literally.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Another thing that I like, obviously found family. That is one of my number one favorite tropes in any kind of book, movie, anything like that. I love the found family, and you really see it in this one. Mm-hmm. Like, you see Neil finally starting to open up, and he doesn't 100% trust them yet. Right. And he's afraid to let them in because he doesn't want them to get hurt.
Right.
But they start getting these little breadcrumbs of truth from him, and they start accepting that, and they eventually do start forming into a family.
I think my favorite part of it is you can see Neil slowly starting to realize he doesn't want to lose these people. Whether he wants to tell them everything or not, like, obviously they all understand that, and some of them pry more than others, like Nikki, but he's just like, that's just how he is, and when they tell him no, he moves on. He's just a curious person, and so he wants to just know about them. He doesn't share all this stuff, but he spends all this time with them, and he, like, starts to view them as his family, and you see him being like, I don't want to leave here, and I don't want to stop playing, and I don't want to, stop being around these people. When he thinks, like, that's his only choice, is, like, he has to do that. Mm-hmm. Him finding the family that he hasn't had for a while, at least since his mom died.
Yeah. Because all he had was his mom.
Yeah.
That was the only family he ever really had. Like, his dad was never a father figure for him, right. And he didn't have any siblings or anybody, so his mom was all he had. And then when she died, he had literally no one. Like, he was living alone and didn't have anyone, and he was a little selfish in choosing to come here because he knew that his dad was out there looking for him. So he was being selfish when he chose the Foxes. But the same thing he said to Kevin. He's like, I would rather be here than go off by myself and just die alone. He would rather have this few months of family than to just be utterly alone.
Mm-hmm. He does always worry about them and how, like, well, if something were to happen, I don't want it to happen to them because I'm here. But then he's also like, I don't want to leave, though. And now he also feels responsible for all of them. And, like, if something happens that was caused by him, he wants to be able to be there. So now he also doesn't want to leave for that of, like, well, they're now all associated with me. And so if something were to happen to one of them, it's my fault. And you see him really take that on, too, with Seth's death. How he completely blames himself, and then you also see, like, Rico goes into, like, that it was him that did it. He really internalized that, and, like, he's scared to talk to Allison, and he thinks everyone blames him when it seemed like he was the only one, really, that blamed himself. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit from everyone else, but they didn't ever, like, put it out there.
Vocalize it.
Yeah. But then when he finds out it actually was his fault, breaks him a little bit.
He utters that truth to David, the coach. And David's like, what did you just say? This has nothing to do with you. Purely on Seth. He OD'd in the first book. And Coach goes into his background and he was like, Seth has been dealing with this kind of stuff his whole entire life. And it's a whole thing, So, but yeah, to go back to what you're saying, like, he said multiple times that hanging out with the Foxes and being with them has taught him how to be human. It's teaching him, like, feelings he's never felt, like guilt. He's never felt guilty before. And now, being with them, he feels guilty. So yeah, he's starting to feel like more of a human, and these are his friends, but then his family.
I liked when he got his phone, and then he was like, it's only for emergencies, but then everyone immediately starts texting him, and Nikki texts him, like, a smiley face every day, and just, like, is super annoying, but then he's, like, just trying to get him to use it, because he wants, if anything happens, for him to pick it up. But I just love how they're all like, oh, you got a phone? Let's blow up your phone, even though you didn't want it.
Well, to be fair, that's Andrew. Andrew's making them do that. The whole thing is, Neil is terrified of his phone. He gets a phone because they need to know where he is, because he's becoming this big hotshot, and people know who he is, and Rico is actively going after him, so they give him a phone, obviously a matching phone with Andrew. Please. And he's petrified the second he gets it. He's like, I don't want that, because he links the phone with his dad, and he's like, my dad can trace me, can call me, can find me. He's just, like, utterly shocked when they get it for him. And then Andrew basically conditions him to use it. He trains him to use it pretty much. And Nikki texts him every single day, and Dan and, Matt, they all text him. That way, he's so used to it, it becomes such a familiar item to him that he does eventually use it at the end of the book. And he never would have done that. He would have just walked back to Palmetto State at that point. So Andrew, he's crazy, yes, but he is very protective and very loyal, and he does what he needs to do. And sometimes that's not always what you want it to do, and it's sometimes not always fair, but he does what he has to do to get things done.
No, he definitely is crazy. I agree with you there. No, you can see, when he chooses someone to be, I don't know, I guess part of, his family, his friends, just someone he cares about, he will literally die, kill, do anything for that person. It doesn't matter what it is, he doesn't care, he'll do it. He's just very protective. He's just that is mine because I care about it, so you're not even allowed near it.
Yeah, I think it's hard because he doesn't show it. A lot of people think it's just a reaction to the meds, or it's him acting out, and they're extreme measures, but you have to also think he's lived a very extreme life. They go in it a little bit in this one, but not as much in the third one. You're going to see a lot more of his past in the third one. But he's lived a very hard life, so he takes the things that happen to him and try to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. So that's why he's very protective, and he does act out a lot. Not saying it's good. He shouldn't do it, and all of the team know that he shouldn't do it. But Andrew is just so sincere, I guess, with the things that he cares about, that he's not gonna let anybody stop him.
Yeah, he's I can tell all of you guys what to do, but I dare you to tell me what to do.
That's it's Neil.
True, and then Neil tells him what to do, and he's like, okay.
Fine, I'll do it.
And I was like, oh.
It's those baby blue eyes.
Dude, Kevin was so pissed. He's like, this guy has never listened to me once. I mean, every once in a while he'll listen to Kevin.
Yeah, or Thanksgiving when Nikki's like, I want to go see my mom, but Andrew's not gonna want to go, and Neil's like, hold on, hold my beer. Yeah. And then went in there and was like, let's go to Thanksgiving. But it's not a one-way street. Neil has to give away his background and his past, and that's why Andrew does the things that he does for Neil, because he knows how hard it is for Neil to give away his past and trust him. He knows that the things that Neil wants is, he needs it. He wants it. So he's gonna give away some of his past to make it happen, and that's why Andrew trusts him.
Yeah. It's two-sided. It's never one-sided with
Never.
Andrew. If he gives you something, you're gonna give him something back. Mm-hmm. Whether, whoever goes first is whatever, but he's like, I'm not gonna do this for free. I get when it's hard to trust people like that. If you know that you guys can go back and forth like that, then I feel like his way of displaying the trust.
Yeah, I like this book because this is after the point that Andrew knows Neil isn't a spy for the Ravens, and that he is there. And he can't figure out why he's there, but he's there. So I like that it opens that gate for them to kind of finally explore their relationship, which, spoiler, they do end up together in the end.
And I also really like how in this, Neil kind of brings the whole team together. And that was a huge point of, even in the description, it's this new guy who's going to bring the team together, because as sad as it was, they were kind of without Seth here, it's easier, and they're doing better because he was the cause of a lot of just fights and stuff. Yeah. And so the team was very divided, and so Neil is like, hey, I'm friends with both of you guys, and if he's like, can, they come with us to places, then Andrew's like, yeah. They're like, wait, really? And so they start all hanging out, and it wasn't Neil with the upperclassmen and Neil with, what do they call them, the monsters. They all get to hang out together as the Foxes, and so you see them when they come together as a team outside of the game too, then they're also playing better. Yeah. Because they're more connected with each other, they listen to each other, and they're all just getting better. So rip Seth, but also I felt like it was pretty good for the team and for all of them. So, besides Allison, I guess she's doing okay. Yeah, it hit Nikki too. Nikki's a pretty emotional person, so when it first, obviously not as much as Allison, who was his girlfriend, but I'm just saying, I did not like Seth. Yeah. He was racist and homophobic, and he just caused issues the entire time. So I feel like he was kind of put into the story just to be a buffer
I guess, to put that distance between the team. Yeah, like you said, like this book opens up the characters and makes them more alive. That they're not just stationary characters in the background. They are part of the story and they all bring something. And everyone gets their own soapbox moment where they all kind of share their own background. But there is points, though, where Andrew does go too far and Dan's not afraid to put down her foot and be like, hey, you do this again, you're off the team. You do this again, you're out of the school. Like, it's not going to happen again. Yeah. And that's why Andrew does respect her. He respects Dan a lot and would literally, if anybody else was the captain, he wouldn't have been on this team.
Like if it was Matt.
Oh my god, no.
No, Matt would be like, absolutely not.
Matt's got like 2 feet on him, but no.
Yeah, he would be. Andrew would just walk right over whoever was the captain. Like you said, I feel like it does open up the characters, and I think it's usually harder with a bunch of people. That a lot of stories you'll read are like 2 main people, or there's like some secondary characters, but they just stay that way. It opens up to where your favorite character doesn't have to be the main character. There's a whole team of people, and there's the staff for the team, and the people outside of the team are the secondary characters. Everyone on the team feels like a main character, and like you see more about all of them. Obviously, there's some that are more talked about than others, but it's something that I think is kind of hard to do when they introduce so many people. Like, it's hard to get a grip on all of them, especially when you only have so much time and like you want to tell a story as well as introducing the characters. And I think there was a good balance of they all get their moment, and it's cool that they all get a chance and they're not just like pushed in the back and they're like, oh, that's number 10. It helps that they are only a team of 9. It was like the Trojans or something where they have like 30 people, then obviously they couldn't do it. Yeah, absolutely. I will say that they do not give everyone the same amount. Allison obviously has a lot less than Nikki. They have like a good balance because I feel like Allison she gets more in the 3rd one, that's for sure. But I feel like everyone has a good balance of like the importance in Neil's life. Obviously, the more important they are, the more background they're going to get. Like, you know, Andrew and Matt, who are kind of like Neil's right-hand men. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit more background depending on the relationship Neil has with them. Yeah, because, like, Neil's the main character, obviously. Well, when you see him, like, trust people more, then they start opening up about themselves. So he's, like, unlocking new parts of the characters. Yeah, like, it's realistic. Yeah. Like, you would. Because obviously, I mean, the people that I know and trust the most and care about the most, I know the most about. And so the reader should kind of feel the same way of, like, when Neil knows something about that person, now you do. So now some things I dislike about this book. Obviously, this is a bridge book between the two, and I think sometimes it could be a little slow at parts. There are a lot of scenes of the game. Obviously, they have to have that because they're a sports team. I will say this one had a lot less than the first one did. Yeah, the first one had so much. Had a lot of games. And then they also, like, dove into the details of how to play the game, so it felt like even more than that. But, like, this one they only played, like, 2 games. But I find it a little bit slow because they also had a lot of events in there that kind of threw the time off a little bit, and it kind of confused me. This happens between October to December, or, like, New Year's is where it ends. So just a few months, but it feels like a lot longer because we're going through so many days. The banquets that they have 2 of them, and I feel like it kind of threw me off. The first one, everyone's there. The second one, Andrew wasn't there. Like, significant things happen in each one, so kind of when I'm not thinking about it, we'll get them confused and be like, well, which one happened at this one? I wish they would have, like, broken it up a little bit more, maybe, put a little bit more time between them, or, like, maybe start with the banquet in the first, and then end it at the very end with the other one. But they seemed a little too close. Yeah, it did feel like the banquets were like a week apart. And it's like, why would they be doing that many banquets? Like, calm down. And then the other thing that I didn't love was the whole Thanksgiving dinner thing. Specifically, like, how they got Drake to Nikki's parents. The first time I read it, I was extremely confused. I was like, what's happening here? How did this even happen? How did it all connect? I found it very, like, I don't know, just confusing. Now I understand, but it was very, like, put there because it needed the story to advance, so let's just do it type deal. I get that it was supposed to be, like, a surprise. Yeah. So then, obviously, we didn't know anything about it. Oh, hey, this guy was here. And then it's like, wait, what? And then he goes to the room, and then they find out a little bit later, like, oh, this is why he was here, you know? So it is supposed to just be like, wait, this is happening right now? Okay. It was not my favorite scene. It's just a lot. It is a lot. But, like, it makes sense. It's something that's real, and so that's why it's a lot. But, yeah. it does feel kind of just, like, put there because they were like, I don't know how else to do this, but I also don't know how else I would put that scene in either.
Yeah.
Where, like, it makes more sense the more you read, like, it connects a little bit better, but, like, in the moment you're like, okay.
Yeah. You know, they were just having dinner, and then he was gone, and then they went upstairs, and then the man was dead. It just happened so fast. Everything was happening so
fast.
quick. We're not going to go into detail about it, because it is a very, like, graphic scene, so it is part of his past, and it is something that happened to him. I respect her not just sugarcoating and make it seem like, oh, it's not a big deal, because it is a big deal, and it is something that changed Andrew as a person, but I'm also glad that she didn't go in, like, hyper detail about it, too. Like, I think she found a good balance to be like, this tragic thing happened, and it affected Andrew, but we're not going to go into, like, detail what happened.
I do really like how parts of it were implied, and then they focused on, like, really going into details on, like, Andrew's hands on the headboard.
Yeah.
You knew what was happening, but she didn't have to describe all of that. It's like, he was here, and then it's like, oh, looking at his hands, and, like...
And, like, his laughter and
yeah,
stuff.
Like, focusing in on points of the moment really stood out to Neil that affected him the most, but then also, like, still setting the scene and we knew what was happening, and it wasn't like try to figure it out. Like, it was very obvious, but it was just in so little word.
Yeah, I feel like that might be because Neil has a particular way of looking at tragic things. Neil would focus only on Andrew because that's what he cared about. Aaron might have focused more on Drake and what he was doing. I feel like if it was told in a different perspective, it would have been told differently, but because it was from Neil just wanted to make sure Andrew was okay, and that at this point he does care about him, so he wants to make sure that he's good, and that's what he cared about. And then Aaron running in there and then killing Drake, he, like, didn't bat an eye at the man that just died. He only had cared about Andrew at the moment.
Yeah, like, literally they came in and Neil was like, Andrew, and Aaron was like,
kill that man.
You're dead. Very one-track mind for both of them. He was like, I have to make sure he's okay, and then he's like, I have to kill him so that he can be okay.
Yeah.
And he can stop hurting him.
What are some things that you didn't like?
The only scene where I was, like, bored was when he was, like, picking out the racket.
Oh,
and
I hate
was
that
like,
scene.
Why are we doing this?
But...
And then I get it, obviously, that, like, the racket that he bought was used to kill Drake. Completely get it. But I was just like,
I skipped that scene
what is going
every
on here?
single time.
Like, God bless audiobooks. Love them. Can't sit there and just read. So I'm, like, listening to it, and I'm like, am I just listening to, like, a guy shopping? Like, what is this?
Racket haul.
And then he, like, goes and, like, tests them all out, and he's like, some were too heavy, some the net. I'm like, what are you doing? It wasn't even that long of a scene. It just felt longer, because I was like, why? I get it. I get that it made sense. Also, he had to go back there and buy another one because they wouldn't let him have... He literally asked for the racket back, and they were like, would you want it? And he was like, do you know how expensive it was?
And they were like, well, it's a murder weapon. It killed somebody. And he's like, didn't kill anyone important.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god.
I did love that. Like, he was straight up gonna use a racket that killed a man. Just, dude, you can't just be like, where is the murder weapon? I need it back. Like, I get it was expensive and you just bought it, but also you didn't even pay for it, so calm down.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he was like, it didn't kill anyone important, I was like, dang, you got him. The only other thing that I would say, I don't even know if I would say I didn't like it, the end scene, I loved it. I thought it was really good, like how it dove into stuff. The only thing I didn't like is that I have to now read the third one, because now I'm like, no, I don't like it only because I'm like finishing that part and I'm like, they did not give me enough information. I have to immediately start the next one.
I know.
That's the only reason why I didn't like it, but I did because I thought it was really well done, the whole end. I was just like, god dang it, now I gotta start, because I have to wait until next year for your birthday.
Nah, you could just read it now and then reread the entire series again. I love the ending. I think like you said, did such a good job. Him coming home, David picking him up, and then getting in the bathroom, seeing the tattoo, going to the knives, and then him calming him down. Just the entire
was so
scene.
Real. Like, yeah. Like, it felt like you were in the room. She didn't miss a single thing. Like, everything was perfectly put in there. Literally went through the emotions perfectly. He woke up in the airport, had no idea how he got there, And then, like, he picked up his phone and he used it. Like, he had the charger even,
Mm-hmm.
which I did not expect him to have.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't use it for the 2 weeks he was gone. They'll yell at him later for it. He plugged it in. He knew who to call. He knew who would come get him. The coach is trying to beat that in his head the whole time of, I will do anything for all of you guys. Like, you just have to tell me. Calls him, and then he's like, are you okay? And he's like, no.
Mm-hmm. That right there.
I was like,
God.
oh my God.
I love that scene because Neil, every single time they say, are you okay? He always says, I'm fine.
Yep.
I'm fine. Every single time.
And they yell at him for it, too.
Yeah.
A lot. Like, he always is like, I'm fine. And he's like, don't give me that stupid answer. And I think, like, Abby yelled at him for it.
Yeah.
It's, like, really hard for him to, like, share his actual, like, feelings on things. And so, for him to be like, no, I was like, dang, okay. This is about to be a scene. And then it was a scene.
I feel like a lot, though, he had to be fine for his whole life. He couldn't say, I don't feel good or anything like that because he was always go, 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 go. His mom, the one time that she wasn't fine, died. So I feel like his mind is just wired that way to be like, no, I'm fine, let's just keep going. Like, I can't stop, I'm hurting, but I can't stop type deal, so.
And I feel like people tend to do that to, like, be polite. There's no other option. His only answer is, yeah, I'm fine.
Alright, so I just want to take a minute here to recognize our Patreon subscribers. So a huge shout out to Bree P and Nick W for following the podcast. Yeah, we appreciate it. If you want to appear in one of our podcast shout-outs, head over to Patreon in the description and follow today. So who would you say is your favorite character in this book?
So I wanted to pick someone a little different. So I picked Dan. I just think that she's really cool. And, like, I can't imagine how it would be to be the captain of this team. Because the team is, like, mostly men. I thought it was cool going back, showing, like, how the girls had to stick together in the beginning, how they didn't like each other. Mm-hmm. But then they were like, we have to do this as the only girls on the team. And now they're best friends. But I really like how she just, like, owns past in her story. In the banquet scene where they were talking about how, she used to be a stripper when she was in high school and how her name was, like, Hennessy. I thought that was cool. She just kind of is like, yeah, I was. What are you going to do about it? Like, I don't care. I'm not ashamed of it. And she's not ashamed of anything she's done or her past. And she's just like, I'm going to yell at all these boys and they're going to listen to me. And they do because everyone respects her and they value her opinion on things. And so I just think she's a cool character and all of the girls in the story are, like, strong enough to stand on their own, but she's, like, definitely the strongest of, maybe not the whole group, but also maybe, like, she's the most strong-willed and is just like, hey, I know things need to get done, and she also is, like, really good at making sure, like, when Andrew wasn't taking his meds during the game, her, like, getting him off the field, she's pretty much just taking care of the whole team and all of these crazy people, but she's, like, holding her own while she's doing it.
She's like the mom and dad of the team. Like, she's every family.
Everything. Yeah.
I really like her, and I know it's not mentioned in the third book, but Nora wrote a Tumblr post of things that happened after the series, and she mentioned that Dan actually becomes the coach. I can't remember if it was of the Foxes or of a different team, but she does eventually become an XC coach, which is perfect for her.
Yeah. I know in this book they talked about how goal is to pretty much Coach Wymack just take over from him.
Yeah.
Whenever he decides to leave or whatever, because she has the same vision and the same goal for the team of she wants to help these people that need her help. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, I can give them this help. And so she's kind of just like a baby coach.
Yeah, my favorite character, it's hard because I've read this book for so long and I've read it so many times. I've grown attached to each one of them in different ways, except for Seth and Abby, but I really like, I have to say, like, I love Matt. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Matt and I love Coach Wymack. I love David. My number one will always be Andrew. I love him. I can't help it. And he really opens up in this one and he just, like, becomes Andrew in the third one. Like we've been saying this whole time, he does a lot of extreme things, and sometimes he pushes people and himself too far, but when you understand his past and what he's been through, it doesn't give him, like, a pass for the things that he does, and be like, well, you've experienced bad things.
Yeah, it doesn't, like, excuse his actions because of his past.
Yeah, but it does explain it, I guess, a little bit of why he's doing these things, so I just really like Andrew. I think he's a great character, and I think he's what Neil needs in his life. He needs somebody that's going to just tell him what it is and not give him pity. And I just really like Andrew.
There's no part of it that I've disliked Andrew, even when he's being, like, a lot. I like him more in this one than I did in the first one, obviously, and I think in every book you'll start to like Andrew more, and then if you reread it, then you start out liking him more than you did because you understand him more.
I just can't wait for you to see him be himself. I really like Andrew. But yeah, let's talk about how Neil's an idiot. Literally the entire book, the entire series, he's just dumb.
He's so dumb.
He's smart in survival skills, but everything else he's dumb.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I know how to survive, so I can say whatever I want to this person's face who wants to kill me.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, no! Just shut your mouth.
The entire time it's him like, oh, I can't do this because my dad will find out, and then goes and does it at the worst possible way to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? He's like, I can't go on public TV because, like, my dad will find me, and then goes and just roasts the Ravens and Rico right to their face. It's just like,
makes
what?
even more of an enemy for the team, because obviously they were already rivals, the teams, and, like, they already had the issues with Kevin, and so he's like, let me make this worse. And it's like, no, you didn't need to do that, you didn't need to talk. And he just won't stop opening his fat mouth.
I know!
Like, shut it! And shut up!
And then, like, at the banquet, when he starts talking in French, and then Rico's like, what was your name again? Alex, Steven? And then he was like, wait a second, hold on. He's like, how'd you find out about me? You couldn't have possibly done that. He's just so dumb.
Like, yeah, his roasts are good. Like, it's funny. And you're like, dang, you're right. But, like, maybe not the right place or right time or right person to say it to. This guy's freaking dad is like the head of the mafia. You should probably chill out a little bit. But he doesn't care. He's just like, nope, I'm stupid and I'm gonna say whatever I want.
Yeah, the entire time you're really thinking, what is this guy actually afraid of? Because it doesn't seem like he's afraid of anything. Because he just does whatever he wants, and then when something bad happens, he's like, oh, was that me?
He's like, oh no! Did I do that?
Yeah.
And then Andrew's like, yeah, you did, you idiot. He's like, that was your fault. And he's like, but no. Like, you knew.
Oh, God.
Yeah, he's an idiot. He's annoying.
Yeah.
I like him, but he's annoying.
Oh, yeah, he's a great character, but he's dumb.
But it's like, dude, you're sitting there and you're just like, dude, shut your mouth. And, like, everyone else is saying the same thing, like, in the book. Dan is like, shut your mouth, and he just doesn't. And, like, Matt and Coach, all of them, they're like, shut up. And he's just like, well, I think it's, like, great. The only thing that he's scared of is his roots growing out.
Yeah, and his eye contacts.
His contacts falling out.
God.
Which it's like, if you've been all these different people and you're gonna go on television and just your hair and your eyes are different, like, anyone who would know who you were, it's quite obvious. I dye my hair all the time and I don't, like, go to work and people are like, who are you?
Right.
Like, it's not that great of a disguise. He thinks he's hidden and then is like, let me tell you everything about my past and confirm everything you said.
He's so dumb.
He should have just played dumb. But he didn't. He was just like...
He tried to be like, oh, yeah, no, I don't know about that.
But then it was just too obvious that they already knew. So he's like, fine.
Yeah. I do like the scene that, Kevin especially starts seeing Neil for what he is, that he is Nathaniel. They're in the court, and it's right after everything that happened, and Kevin's like, you need to run. Like, you need to go because you're going to die, and... That's the scene where he's like, well, I don't want to just go and die somewhere by myself. I want to take these precious moments that I have here. When it gets too hard then I'll go and die somewhere else so you guys don't get hurt. But yeah, he does have that scene where, oh my God, and then Kevin calls him Nathaniel, and he's like, don't ever call me that. Like, my name is Neil, or you don't talk to me at all.
Yeah. What does he tell Andrew to call him? Abraham or something?
Yeah, that's his middle name.
Yeah, his middle name. When he straight up said that, I'm like, dude, you're just in a room full of a bunch of people. Whether you're talking another language or not.
I mean,
probably.
Maybe.
I hate when he just tries to be, like, sneaky in a room full of people and talk in another language. And I'm like, you don't know if any of these people speak that language.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't make up your own language and you're talking in it. Like, other people could easily know this.
French is a pretty well-known...
Yeah. German a little bit less. He'll just randomly break out into different languages with these other people, and then everyone else is still in the room, and I'm like, they could probably piece it together.
You know what he should learn? Sign language. A lot of people don't know sign language.
That's true. There's a lot more people that know French than sign language.
Yeah.
Or at least, like, parts of French. And then also if you know, like, other languages that are kind of like it, you can figure it out.
He's
like,
an idiot.
At that point, just say it in English in front of everyone.
Yeah.
It's so... I hate those scenes where he's just talking to people and then he'll just be like, I'm talking in German now. And I'm like, are you? Why?
In this book, who would you say is your favorite relationship?
My favorite relationship is Coach Wymack and just the team. A lot of these people, they don't have good parental figures or parental figures at all. He's willing to do that for them. He loves them and cares about them, and the way he shows it might not be the most conventional all the time, but like he will literally do anything for any of these kids. Neil calls him, it's, you know, New Year's, and he's like, is there any good reason why you're calling me on New Year's? And then he was like, I need help, and he was like, I'll be there, I'm on my way. Like, is completely willing. Like, he knew what he got into starting this team. But he's so attached to all of these kids, and, like, he cares so much about them and wants them all to succeed, do better for themselves. And so he's just like, I'll do anything. Like, I'll drop everything for all of them. And I just love seeing him interact with literally anyone on the team. You can just see how much he loves them and cares about them.
Two things. One, I love that you call them kids when they're, like, older than you are.
Yes, but they're his kids. That's why they're kids. Because they're... That's true. I think of them as being, like, in high
college,
school. I know it is, but, like, my brain is like, okay, they're at school and they're on a team, so it's high school. But
yeah, no, they're. I think the youngest is Neil, freshman, and he's like technically 19, but he says that he's 18.
Yeah, but they're just kids because they're his kids, and they're
right. I absolutely agree. He is exactly what each of them need. My favorite thing is, like, he'll do anything for them. Like, he put the stalls in the bathroom, and Neil actually asks him, he's like, why did you put these in here? No other school has stalls in their showers. And he said, I thought maybe one day you would need one. He does things.
I died right there.
I know.
Like, I just love him.
I love that man. Yeah, he doesn't do things because he wants the team to like him, or he wants them to respect him or trust him. He does it because it's what they need, even if they don't know it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely doesn't just do stuff to make them happy all the time, because he does stuff that they hate, and he yells at them, and he makes them
treats
do
them like adults. Like,
he'll
yell at them.
Yeah, he's like, no, stop being an idiot. Which I wish he would say that to Neil a little bit more.
Yeah,
but
he's not gonna listen either way.
True. Whether he says it or not, none of them listen. They all have that respect for him, but he treats them like they're equals to him. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really go into his past, I don't think, a lot
They talk a little bit about his parent, like, he's an orphan too. Mm-hmm. Abby, Betsy, and David all went to, like, school together. Mm-hmm. It doesn't go into, like, deep stuff about him. But unfortunately, I wish it did. But.
Yeah, he's like, all of you guys are my equals, but also my children. Yeah. And if you're doing something stupid, I'm going to tell you it's stupid and make you listen to me. But also, like, if you need me, I'll be there. Like, he's just the best.
Yeah. I had two relationships. My main one is Neil and the Foxes as a team. We've talked about it a ton, so I won't go in, like, giant detail. I just love that they get, like, quite literally breadcrumbs of his life. They find out one day that he doesn't like action movies, and in passing they find out that his favorite color is gray. Understanding him, but they all start to love him in their own way. Not Aaron though, because he's dumb. But they all start to, like, respect each other, and he is quite literally the glue of the team, and he brings them together. At first he's like, I can't do that. I'm just one person. I can't bring an entire team together. But then he starts seeing how important it is, and how not only are they improving in the game and doing better and becoming, like, we didn't even really talk about it, but they are, like, bottom of the barrel, lowest team ever, and they get up to the top. Like, they're gonna eventually play against the Ravens.
Battle? So. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah. Their last game got incredibly violent. Pretty much a battle. But.
Yeah, so they're climbing the ladder and becoming, like, a popular team and being good at their job, literally, is what it is. So it's all because of Neil. And they never would have done it without him. So I just really like the impact not only of the upperclassmen and the monsters on Neil, but the other way around. Mm-hmm. So my other little one was like, I really like Andrew and Betsy. I think it's just so cute. We didn't talk about Betsy a ton, but she's the therapist that, or a counselor, I guess, of the team that they all have to go see. Neil can't stand her. Andrew, like, he's gone through so many therapists. It explains, like, he's gone through, like, a dozen of them, but he respects Betsy. I imagine the first day Andrew saw Neil, he rolled up to Betsy's and was like, let me tell you about this guy. With, like, a tuck in a hair bone. And be like, oh god, I'm freaking in love with him, I knew it, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, she loves hot chocolate, and it's just, I really like their little relationship too. Yeah, I like after that whole, scene where Andrew goes through all that, and then they pull up to the house. Like, literally they had no food in the house, and she's like, I picked up some milk, and I brought your favorite hot chocolate, and he's like, I'll be in a minute. You know what to do. Me, girl. You think of everything. And, like, when originally he, like, gets there and he's, like, mad and he's like, I don't want to talk to her. And, like, he tries to make Neil talk to her instead. Because he knows that Neil needs to. Yeah. Even though Neil just hates her because he just hates the idea of a counselor in general. Yeah. I mean, he's not the only one, but I just love that Andrew opens up to somebody that isn't somebody that he is close to in that way. So another one, like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but another one that I really liked was Renee and Neil. I think that they had a good branch off of the story, and it's more in the next one too, and you see like why Andrew is so respects her and talks to her out of everyone on the team. You get a lot of information about Andrew from Renee, and I like that because Andrew actually trusts her and talks about it, and the entire team has a bet that they're going to end up together because no one knows that Andrew is gay. Renee's the one that tells Neil. He's even told Nikki, who is gay. He's like, why is it okay for you to tell me that he's gay? Renee says, well, I think you won't use it against him. Yeah. And I love that scene as well. I think she also says, like, he told her that she could. Neil was going to come up to Renee, and he's like, just tell him what you need to tell him. Because he wants to talk to you. Just whatever you need to tell him, just tell him. Yeah. And Renee just assumed it was that. She's like, okay, well, he's gay, and he's in love with you. Yeah. I wish she would have told him my god, could you imagine? I would have been like, At that point, though, I don't think Andrew really understands that he has feelings for Neil. No. He sees it a lot, probably under, the eyes of medication. And this one, the relationship is very, because Andrew is not Andrew, and Neil has never really thought about his own sexuality and has never really cared about people in that way because he's always been like, go, 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 go. And his mom never let him think about anything. So he's never really taken a step back and be like, who am I attracted to? In the next one, when they do start their relationship, you'll see like how he kind of opens up to the idea of Andrew. And I love how she describes it and how she does it, but won't get too much into it because you have to read it. Yeah, I kind of just picture Renee as, like, she's going to be the maid of honor at their wedding. Oh, yeah. Like, her relationship with both of them is really interesting, and, like, how, like, her and Andrew will just start sprinting away, and then they'll go fight. Like, oh, yeah, they do like, that's so crazy. Andrew's, like, not afraid to fight her. But she's not afraid to fight him. No, and she's just like, no, I'm gonna beat him. Also, they were talking about, like, how he only wins half of their fight. They're very evenly matched in, like, a lot of things, and they're kind of two sides of the same coin, how they are. Want to play a game? Monopoly? Yeah. So if you haven't been to tiermaker.com, I recommend it because they have literally everything, and we're gonna do a tier list of the characters from this book. At the very top, we have the Hall of Fame. This is our number one people that will go down in glory. Right after we have, they're on my starting lineup, and then we have needs more practice. Good, not great, but needs a little bit more practice. And then we have didn't even pass tryouts. They did not make it on the team. Finally, we have just expelled from Palmetto State, and then also life. Let's start out with Andrew. I obviously put Andrew on Hall of Fame because I love that man. I can't help it. I did think about it for a second, but I also put him in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. I'm excited to see him in the next book, and I think that that'll support this even more. But, like, I already like seeing how much he's grown and how much he's changed, and, like,
I did put him in starting lineup first, and then I was like, you know what? Fine.
Next we have is Dan Wilds. I also put her in Hall of Fame, where she belongs.
Yeah. So. I also put her in the Hall of Fame. I mean, honestly, the queen, the captain, the icon, that's Dan.
Next we have Renee Walker. I put her on my starting lineup. I don't know. I like her, but I don't think she's Hall of Fame worthy.
Right. I had her in the starting lineup for the whole time, but when we made it before, and then when I just opened my list to do it, I moved her up to Hall of Fame after our conversation about her, because I was like, you know what, I'm cheating a little bit and move her around. I think that she's really cool, and I think that her relationship with all of them, especially Neil and Andrew, is going to be super important.
Next we have Nikki. I'm going to be honest, I put Nikki on Needs More Practice. Like, listen, I love Nikki, don't get me wrong. Nikki's a great character. He's that comic relief in the story. But sometimes he just gets a little out of hand, and he gets a little in the way. I no disrespect towards Nikki, but I'm putting him on Needs More Practice.
That's fair. I put him in my starting lineup. I like him so far. I mean, he does get kind of annoying sometimes. That's also me. So I guess maybe I don't hate him as much. I'm just used to it. He helps try and make everyone as comfortable as they can be most of the time. Yeah. Like, he's kind of the buffer of, okay, well, if no one's talking, I'll start talking. And, like, people might think that that's annoying, but, like, he's just trying to make more comfortable.
Yeah, especially on, like, Halloween when they're all hanging out together.
Yeah, and it was, like, the first time, really.
He makes a lot of sacrifices, too, for his family, so. Mm-hmm. Next we have Seth Gordon, or Brian, if you want to call him. I put him in didn't pass tryouts.
So did I. Not on the team anymore.
No, I'm not getting into it. I don't like Brian. And that's just how it is.
I totally forgot. I'm like, when you said Brian, I was like, what? And then I was like, oh my god, flashback.
Seth. They call him Seth, but his real name is Brian.
Yeah, his name is Brian. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I put him in didn't pass tryouts as well. Just wasn't a huge fan of him. Obviously, he wasn't in this book, really. All they talked about was his death and then how it affected them. They didn't really talk about him. They just talked about how it affected everyone else and how everyone else was doing about it. They kind of just moved on. They were like, no one cares that much about Seth. Let's talk about the other characters. And, I don't think he was, like, the worst person, obviously, so that's why he's not on the very bottom, but he didn't make it on my team,
Sorry. Next we have is Matt Boyd. Okay. Hall of Fame. Let's be real.
I put him in my starting lineup. No! I'm sorry. I like him a lot. But like I said before we started recording this, I either just missed everything about Matt, or I just don't know anything about him. But he's there. He's chilling. I like him. No hard feelings towards him. He's just a guy. I'm sorry. Like,
He's not just a guy. He is everything and more. I'm Dan Wilds, and I stand by this statement. No, I really like Matt. I think he, again, is exactly what Neil needs in a roommate, in a brother, in a lover.
No, not that one. I think he's a very good guy, and he is very important to the story. He's just not my personal favorite.
Okay. Next we have is Betsy Dobson. Put her in my starting lineup.
I did too. Honestly, like, I want her on my team. She's gotta help out my players, you know.
She's so cute. I really like her. She's a good character.
If it would have been based off of before I saw that scene of her in the hot chocolate with talking to Andrew, I would have been like, I really don't care. But that scene just
what about her in the bee costume?
Oh, that was great too. Oh my god, where she texted
Halloween.
that. She texted
Andrew
a picture of herself in a bee costume. Yeah. And I was like, okay,
I want to be that
solid.
close to my therapist.
I did forget about that. That combined with the hot chocolate, honestly should earn her a Hall of Fame spot, but like,
it doesn't. Next we have is Abby. I put her under expelled because I hate her.
Why do you hate her?
I don't know why. I can't explain it. I just don't like her. She gets in the way.
I don't feel like she's done anything wrong.
I despise her. She gets in the way. She acts like she's the mom of the group, but that's already Dan. Dan's already the mom of the group.
It's true. She's kind of like the weird stepmom that no one's like a huge fan of, but she's like trying her best to help.
I think what I don't like about her is that she just carries so much pity. Like, she feels bad for all of them. And they don't want it. They don't want her pity. And I think that's why I don't like her. I don't know, though. I don't like her.
I mean, I put her in didn't pass tryouts. Like, I'm not like a
wow,
Abby
you're an Abby
stan. But, like, she just wasn't cutting it for me. Like, her and Seth had the same vibe for me. They could be there or not. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
They were just... And her and, like, Coach Wymack are, like, dating.
They never straight out say that they're dating.
They, like, all of them assume that they're dating,
yeah.
and, like, they talk about it that way, but they never straight up, like, yeah, they're dating.
They never disclose if they're dating or not.
Because, like, is it that important? No.
Speaking of Coach, I put him in my Hall of Fame.
Obviously.
That's
where he belongs.
Same with Neil. I also put him in my Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. Even though that boy needs to control himself.
Yeah, as much as I wanted to expel him for being an idiot.
Next we have is Eric Klaus. I put him in my starting lineup, but that's because I know more about him than you do. So.
I put him in my starting lineup as well, just because
he's gay.
Because he's gay. I just wanted to put him next to Nikki.
Oh, gotcha.
And I haven't heard anything bad about him so far. Strong, sturdy man. Lives
there
in
is
Germany.
Nothing bad.
No, he's just chilling.
Saved Nikki's life.
And he's got a good name. I like his name. Eric with a K. And yeah, he saved Nikki's life. Good dude.
Yeah. Allison.
I put her in needs practice.
Me too.
She
needs practice and more background.
Yeah. I haven't disliked her at all. Like, I get, this whole book, she was kind of grieving, so she wasn't in it as much, and was just kind of, like, on the sidelines. Also, mad respect for her, like, going out there and playing and doing her best, because she knew that the team couldn't play without her. She definitely cares about her team, and she cares about these people, but, like, she was kind of annoying in the first one, and I don't know if it was Seth.
Oh, it definitely was.
So I think she'll be better. It's just, this one she was very middle of the row. She didn't do a lot.
I think you'll like her in the third one.
She, wasn't bad at all. Yeah. She just chilled. And
next we have is Kevin Day. You know what? He's gonna kill me for this, but I put him as need more practice.
I put him there too.
Did you find out something about Kevin? Like, that's in this book, right? From...
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about.
Oh my god, yeah, where Coach is his dad.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
We literally didn't even talk about
this is what happened, right? So I was listening to it, completely didn't hear them say that. And then I was confused, and so I went back. They didn't ever mention it again, so it wasn't like they said anything about that, but I was just, like, lost at where I was at. Then heard them say that, and I was like, I'm so glad I went back, because I missed it the first time. Yeah. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
We didn't really go into it, but after the thing at Thanksgiving, they sent Andrew to the hospital to get him off his medication, and Rico basically was like, hey, you're gonna come stay with us for 2 weeks.
Terrible idea.
Or I'm gonna have the freaking therapist that's working with Andrew kill him. And Neil's like, I'm not gonna let you kill Andrew.
Right.
So he's like, I'm gonna go to protect Andrew. And Neil stays with Rico, with the Ravens, and he stays there for 2 weeks where he gets tortured and then forced to practice. They beat him there, and that's why he's back in the airport that we talked about earlier. But he stays in Kevin's old room and finds out that the coach...
Which was kept exactly how it was.
Yeah, like
Kevin
a shrine.
Left. Super creepy.
It finds out in the notes that Coach was his dad, and that was like a huge eye-opener for them. Kevin, I understand where he's coming from. I know what he's trying to do, but he just is not a people person.
No.
And he is just too much sometimes.
I never disliked him fully.
Yeah.
There was just parts where I'm like, dude, shut up. What are you doing? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Go back to the Ravens.
But then again, you have to think, like, he was also tortured, so...
Oh, yeah. Like, I definitely, like you said, get where he's coming from. He's got stuff going on, and he just, like, wants to be the best he can, and his whole hand was, like, messed up, and so he has to play with his other hand.
He's only Exy. That's all he's ever known, and it's all he will ever know. Like, he is Exy.
Which is how the Ravens are, and so, like, that's not really his fault. That was, ingrained in him. Is Coach supposed to know that he's Kevin's dad so far? No, nope. So he doesn't know. Kevin knows, though.
Kevin and Neil are the only, and Rico are the only three people I know.
That's so weird that Kevin didn't tell him. So he just hangs out, like, every day. He's just like...
That's why he went to the Foxes.
Well, yeah.
Because his dad.
But it just, like, can you imagine if one day he's like, oh, thanks, Dad. I mean, Coach. But, like, also, I feel like Coach wouldn't even, like, if one of them just called him Dad, he wouldn't even think about it that way.
Oh, Dan? 100% it's called him Dad.
Just like, He's literally their dad.
Yeah.
And he would just be like, yeah, sure thing, Matt. And then he'd be like, wow, my father won't even notice me. I'm not Matt, Kevin.
No, Matt.
Either way, Matt's definitely called him dad as well.
Next we have is Aaron Minyard. I wanted to put him in Expelled, but I put him at didn't pass tryouts.
I know how you feel about him. From what I've seen, I don't have those strong feelings. I put him in needs practice. He's just there. He's not a super out there character. Obviously, Andrew's his twin brother, so like you'd think they'd talk about him more. In this one, he's just there. Like he kills someone to help out his brother and did him the same favor, I guess, that he did for him. Mm-hmm. But like he's just there from what I've seen.
Yeah. Let's do Mary Hartford, who is Neil's mom. Honestly, I put her in Expelled because
I put her in didn't pass tryouts.
She's like in the middle between those.
Yeah,
honestly.
like
she did what she needed to do. But I feel like she also made his life more difficult, I guess. It's a weird thing, because, like, if she wouldn't have ran away with him, he would have ended up as a Raven, and then he would have been tortured and been on the lineup.
Right.
But at the same time, he went through so many traumatic events in his life. I don't really like Mary, but she's not in it enough to really have an opinion, to be fair.
It's just, like, stuff that they say about her. There's no, like, flashbacks or anything like that involving her, really.
Yeah, so that was fun. We're gonna hop over to, what do you think is gonna happen next? So this is obviously the second of the trilogy. I've read the book a billion times, so I know what's gonna happen. So what do you think is gonna happen in the last one, which is called The Kinsmen? What are some predictions that you have?
I mean, like, obviously they're going to be in a relationship together. I've known this before I read it.
Matt and Aaron, I knew it.
Yes, Matt and Aaron. Obviously, Neil's going to have some kind of where he defeats someone or beats something so he can kind of be free, I guess, because he's got to be free at the end. There's no way this guy just dies. There's got to be some way that, like, he beats Rico. Maybe Rico dies, that would be kind of sick. But I don't know exactly what. Like, that's gonna be kind of up in the air. I'm excited to see how Andrew acts without his medication. And excited to see more about, like, what happened in when he went for the 2 weeks with the Ravens. Because, like, they really talk about the first day, and then he's in the airport. I mean, I feel like they're gonna play in the finals. I don't feel like they're gonna win, because they're really not, like, that great, but, like, they're gonna give it their all.
They have to play against 3 of the strongest of all of NC.
Yeah, there's no way they're winning. Like, I'm gonna put that right now, like, I really don't think they're gonna win.
What would you say, in your own opinion, if you were writing this book, what would you have done differently?
Honestly, nothing. I just really like how the characters are written and how their pasts go into how they act now, and I feel like it's all very well thought out. It's something that people try to do a lot, because obviously it's interesting to write a character that has a past and has all of this stuff that went on in their life, has traumatic events, because that always makes a story more interesting. But like, some people just can't do it well, and it ends up just being a flat character that's just like angry at the world. That's not all that people are. Like, people can act differently from their trauma and everything. So how she writes the characters is beautiful. I think it's very real to, like, how people can act and react. And obviously the only thing that I always want is more, which there's a third book, and so I can read that, and then I'll tell you if they missed anything in the series.
Yeah. The only thing I put was I wish there was more for Allison. I feel like I said earlier, she's kind of the one that was kind of left out. So I wish there was a little bit more background on her, and I'm going to say there's not a ton more. Like, you definitely get more, but you don't get as much as the rest of them. But, you know, that's kind of realistic. Neil isn't that close to her.
The reasoning why behind Allison not getting as much backstory is completely understandable. Like, yeah. Especially because she wasn't around them as much, especially with the first half of the book. She was just kind of, you know, doing her own thing, grieving, and like
Neil thought he did it.
Yeah, so. And then Neil's like scared to be around her, so like obviously, unless other people told him about her, he's not going to hear anything. Yeah. But it would be cool to kind of see like where she came from and what her deal is.
All right, so before we go, we're going to do a quick little rating scale, and we do it a little bit different here on the Book Stop. We make up our own little thing. So I would give The Raven King by Nora Sakavic 8 visits to B's office after reading this book out of 10. This book is emotional.
Yeah.
Every time I read this book, I always cry at the end because it's very raw and it's very tragic, and the stuff that these people have gone through. You might read it the first time and think, okay, this is a bit unrealistic and it's very extreme, but these are real things that happen to people, and they're not just pushed off to the side because they're not something that is talked about a lot. And I also think all of these foxes are coming from bad backgrounds, so they're not all going to have a glorious, happy little childhood. Yeah, I love this book. I love this series. I can't rave about it enough. I just love it so much, and every time I go back to it, I just love it more and more. I never get sick of it. If you haven't read this book, please read it. This whole series is so good.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I actually also gave it an 8 out of 10 bloody practice rackets. I think this is a really well done story altogether. Obviously, this book is not the most exciting of the three, but I still think it's good. I still think it adds a lot of good background and detail on characters and just kind of sets up for the finale, I guess, is because she's not doing any other books, I'm guessing.
Of the series?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So all she has is these 3, and then she has the Tumblr page that has like a bunch of like smaller things that she like wrote out, but
kind of like
one
one-shots.
Yeah.
Just writing one-shots of your own story because you don't want to lose it. Definitely good read. Obviously read the first one first, or you're going to be very confused.
Yeah. Or you could start from the last
3,
one and work your way back.
And then you just see the regression of all these characters. Oh, that's really sad. I don't like that.
Oh, God. But yeah, well, thank you for coming on and doing this for my birthday. I appreciate it.
Of course, I totally wasn't forced here against my will.
Nope, there's definitely not a bloody racket pointing at your head right now. We honestly barely scraped the surface of this book. There's just so much that happens within the series and happens within this book that we literally didn't even mention. There's just so much, so read it. It's an eye-opener for sure. But yeah, thank you, and I'm looking forward to the next year, where we're coming for Kingsman.
Yeah. I'll see you guys April 21st of 2023.
And see you next time.
Bye!
Thank you for turning the pages with us today. If you've enjoyed this episode, show your support by leaving a review, sharing the episode, and following the podcast on Instagram at The Book Stop Podcast. Join us on Patreon for early access to episodes and other additional content. Thank you for listening, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Hope you are too.